everybody, thanks for checking out a kind of surprise and unplanned video here on G4G. So, news has come out today that Battleborn is going to be sunsetting before or right around the turn of 2020 into 2021. The way that it is going now is that monetary transactions within Battleborn will cease in February of 2020, and the game will be completely wrapped up by 2021, in which the servers will go offline. Currently, you will not be able to download the game, although maybe not quite this moment. Maybe it's when the February date hits. But you're not going to be able to download Battleborn on any of the respective stores coming up pretty soon. You know, PlayStation Store, Xbox Store, Steam, etc., etc. So you might be wondering, what the hell is a Battleborn? Just in case you don't know, Battleborn was a game that enjoyed a rather public beta at around the time Overwatch was enjoying a very private beta. At the time, Overwatch was being called Only Watch, because what happened was Blizzard had only given beta access to popular streamers at the time. People whose Twitch channels had tons and tons of views, and they were playing Overwatch. Now, it's a bit of a marketing jackass, but it's also a bit of a marketing brilliance at the same time. It's a jackass from the general player perspective because they were not able to play it, which was a little sad in the face of a lot of other games, including Battleborn and Paladins, that had some very public early access time to it. Although I will say, during Battleborn's first beta period, the servers really didn't work too well, and you needed an instance for anything that was private, and you just couldn't really get instances. So it was a really tough thing to play Battleborn in the very first beta weekend. However, they had several other beta weekends, and it was a lot of fun, whereas Overwatch was considerably more limited. Now, the brilliance of Blizzard with Overwatch was the fact that by seeing all these people, popular people, play it, it drove the hype to near insanity levels. If you remember Stewie mocking Tom Cruise on Family Guy when Stewie was on Oprah, go, "I love Katie Holmes! I love Katie Holmes! I love Katie Holmes!" And he's like doing the flips and everything like that. That was the Overwatch frenzy, because it was a Blizzard product, and Blizzard had been producing good products. Not to say that every moment of World of Warcraft and Diablo 3 is good, but overall the gestalt of the games they produce is good. So it was a Blizzard product, which was a good name at the time, unlike what would become of EA, unlike what would become of Bethesda, unlike what would become of Blizzard now. China. Blah. So 2K, on the other hand, was a little 50-50. You had Aliens Colonial Marines that literally was done in by a letter of a spelling mistake. I would be ashamed if I was 2K and a modder, just a general Joe Blow person, was looking through the code and figured out that the reason why the AI was so fucking stupid in Colonial Marines was because of the fact that there was one spelling mistake in the code somewhere. I mean, it was something kind of like target bound, or threat bound, or something like that. It kind of had to do with, I think, like the aggression level of the AI, and instead of like threat bound, it was like threat bound or something like that. And once that was fixed, the game actually works. I'm not saying it's good or playable, I don't honestly know, but it's disgusting as a big ass company that 4 years later somebody fixes one letter in the code and suddenly the game works. I mean, that's like a Star Trek episode where somebody finds that the dilithium crystal has slightly tilted off its axis and somebody puts it right and they rocket away at warp speed or something. Okay. Anyway, so, but then 2K, of course, had the Borderlands series, and by doing the Borderlands series, they generally redeem themselves as a company, and then of course the Alien series would later be redeemed completely by Alien Isolation, which is absolutely one of the best games ever, along with the Dead Space games. When I would come home from work and I was playing Alien Isolation actively, in an attempt to beat the game, I had to play Alien Isolation just about every day. It's like I had to smoke. I had to smoke Alien Isolation. I had to smoke Dead Space games. I kind of had to smoke Halo ODST and Halo Reach, I believe. But that's where 2K was, and you know, Blizzard, I'm not going to get ahead. We'll save that. So Battleborn is this game here by 2K. It is mostly a FPS. It's mostly a shooter. However, the main online mode of it was MOBA-esque. Similar to some of the things with Paladins. Paladins and Battleborn kind of strode that weird... They had one left foot over one side of the speed bump and one right foot on the other side of the speed bump. And it kind of just dragged their sack down the middle of FPS, hero shooter, and MOBA. To be honest, Battleborn, you could kind of think of it as a MOBA with heavy shooter elements in it. The real biggest MOBA at the time with shooter elements was Paragon by Epic. And then the next most removed one from being a MOBA was Battleborn in most of its modes. The next most removed one from a MOBA is Paladins, and then the one that's completely removed from a MOBA is Overwatch, which may change in Overwatch 2, but that's a story for a different day. This game was quite interesting and had a lot of fun, and those weekends in which there were open betas, my girlfriend, way before she had moved in, we played them together, and she actually had quite a good deal of fun with it. She liked the humor of Oscar Mike, who is your generic soldier type, somewhat similar to Soldier 76. She is an excellent sniper. She plays a good Widowmaker, so she happened to play a good Marquis at the time, and we did quite enjoy it. However, any time we had a Overwatch weekend, believe me, Battleborn was summarily thrown into the outside dumpster by the grease trap out back of the McDonald's. We would retrieve it. I mean, we would retrieve it and brush it off and make sure it wasn't all fry greased up and everything and play it the next time it would come around. But if it went head-to-head with Overwatch, believe me, it was going to lose. That is not to say that Battleborn is a bad game. It really isn't. It brings a lot of the Borderlands humor into this series, and at times even makes reference to perhaps being a fringe element of the Borderlands series. But maybe it could have appealed to more people if they had tied it more directly into the Borderlands series, because maybe more people heavily invested in Borderlands humor and lore and everything like that could say, oh, this is going to be like a Borderlands game. I'm going to want to get this because I consume Borderlands content. And anything Borderlands I'm going to like and I'm going to play and love. Like, that's funny. The way some people may say that about Marvel games. They're heavily invested in Marvel characters and Marvel plots, so they will attempt to play a Marvel game when it comes out. Well, unfortunately, they didn't do that, and that may have hampered them a little bit. And while the game is phenomenal, and it is phenomenal with its level up unlocks throughout each particular match and everything like that, and you can set a tree and you can pick depending upon the combat, depending upon your allies, depending upon the enemies, every single match, similar to, say, Dota or League or Heroes of the Storm. I mean, look at that's just funny. The character building and the lore and the humor in this game is really good. I mean, Beatrix was a character added after launch. She's got phenomenal design. Just certain characters like Miko was a total bastard early on when the game first dropped. During the betas, I was a Phoebe player, and Phoebes were so annoying to deal with. They just often got in and, you know, face hugged you until you died because people were expecting shooters. And then, yeah, see, like, that's just funny. And they really brought out people's attitudes. This sort of looks like a Jedi Fallen Order a little bit now, but most of these characters are so built up, like Arendi over here. You should see some of this stuff with Arendi. First of all, that's Tiny Tina's voice, in case you don't recognize it. That's Tiny Tina's voice actress. That just reminds me of Jim Carrey. See, now, knowing that this is the voice actress of Tiny Tina, people who love the Borderlands series might get emotionally invested in wanting to play this if they're like, oh, Tiny Tina's in the game. I mean, they got the voice actress for her. They could have, you know, very easily made Tiny Tina a character in this. And Mr. Torque could have very easily been somebody like Atticus. That could have been Brick or a Goliath or something. They had potential to do different things. Unfortunately, releasing only a week before Overwatch did them in. If they had gotten a little bit more of a head start, maybe a month. Here's your Hanzo-ish character. Toby is somewhat similar in respects to Orisa. Phoebe's kind of the Genji. Reyna is an odd support with, like, shielding people. Oscar Mike is your Soldier 76. Marquis is your Widowmaker. Cleese is a lot of fun. He has very good fleshed out personality. Isaac is fun personality too, just homicidal robot. Kid Ultra is like one of those super heroes that thinks that, like, just everything is great and he's just so super and everything like that. He's very justice oriented. Ernest has, you know, a lot of bird related puns and sort of I wouldn't say Farah-esque. He's rocket launcher, but Benedict is your Farah, and he's got a lot of bird-related things too. I believe one of his taunts is he pukes up... There it is, yeah. He pukes up a rocket. I mean, he's puking up an egg or something. Instead you have this chicken taunt. They're honestly, their character building, with the exception of lore and plot, probably isn't as good as Overwatch's, but the individual characters are better. Unfortunately, there wasn't a good amount of cook time before Overwatch came out and summarily took a dump on Battleborn's head and left it in the corner and nobody came and cleaned it. So now Battleborn has just been sitting in the corner like Mike down in the basement of Blair Witch with a huge fat dump on its head that's rotted for, what, 3 years now? And it never could get out from under it, and it's, like, impossible to find matches now. Now, I like Battleborn a lot. I have gone through all of the stories. I was even doing some Let's Plays on YouTube when it first came out to try and drive up a little bit of hype for Battleborn. Don't get me wrong, I love Overwatch, but I was trying for Battleborn. You can see I have the Ultimate Badass Advanced Edition, which means, like, I pre-ordered it. However, they didn't get a lot of hits. There wasn't much that I could do about it. I really had, like, no impact on my channel when I was doing Battleborn stuff. I will say, though, for these stories, and especially the missions, there are several characters that just walk all over them very, very easily. Pendles, because of his stealth, kind of allows him to do whatever he wants and go where he wants to fight. He very much dictates the flow of stories and commands. Oscar Mike does too, because of his kit. His kit is very basic, but he also has the grenades, he's got the airstrike, he can stealth out of bad situations. Aside from the fact that he lacks, like, Soldier 76's heal pot, he's very good for these commands. He's kind of like Spec Ops. And Pendles, the fact that he is stealth whenever he's not actually attacking. See, Pendle's Cloak activates when out of line of sight on enemies. Go around the corner and he'll stealth, and then he'll drop combat, and it's very easy for him to regen if you're wearing regen gear. And to be honest, I haven't tried with any of these other characters. When I was an active player, and I was, you know, doing player versus player content in this, Beatrix was a favorite, Caldarius was a favorite. Originally I didn't have Galt unlocked, and then they kind of started unlocking everything, but I knew a lot of really badass Galts. Pretty decent at Marquis. Girlfriend was always very good. Sniper, very good at Marquis. Pendles came out, unfortunately, after I was pretty much done with player versus player content, but I did use him a little bit. Oscar Mike was very big with me. Phoebe was big in the beta areas, but she got nerfed a little bit when it came out on live. Whiskey Foxtrot was another one that I played a lot of matches with. Reyna, if I wanted to support, she's kind of like a Tassadar character, in that she's not direct healing, but she's like support through shielding and everything. I did a little bit of Toby work, and that's pretty much all that I played. Oh! Gigantic! Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the other one that was very, very MOBA and a little light on shooters. Yes, if you put Gigantic into the mix, Gigantic was very deep into the MOBA elements. But not every battle mode in this game is MOBA-esque. Where is it? It's not, well, it's not really listed anymore, but the one where you, oh, classic, yeah, Incursion, there it is. The one where you escort the little robots to the chompers, and then your value goes up, but you also want to try to kill the enemy team's robots before they get to the chompers, and you have the crystals around the map. That was Meltdown, Incursion were the big two at the time, and then they've added stuff over the years, but unfortunately the game was beginning to get on life support at that time, so I really unfortunately did not play any of these other match types at all, because it was pointless to try and log in and get into a match. And I've heard most of the consoles got that bad too. I think maybe PlayStation 4 players enjoyed a little bit of a deeper longevity in their queues over everything else, but even after a while the PlayStation 4 players have said that it's pretty dead. But all of these operations were a lot of fun. They were relatively quick consumable content that you can knock out generally in a session. They had good lore to them. They did flesh out some of the characters and the backstory of this game And whereas maybe not always the gameplay could stack up against Overwatch, the characters I definitely believe could. They could stack up on any one of them. Gigantic had the art style and its heavy uniqueness over everything. Overwatch had the super polish and the backbone of Blizzard behind it, and very good snappy combat. And Battleborn had a lot of character investment. When you played Caldarius, the way he operated in a match, you felt he was a bit of a pompous robot. And Neandy seems like a typical government official, and Beatrix is just unhinged, and Benedict is the happy-go-lucky aerial rocket launcher type, and Umbra and Atticus play their villains well. Kid Ultra's like super, I'm a toy superhero, everybody loves me, and I'm flawless. And Isaac, does Psychosis so well, and Marquis does the prim and proper, almost Batman Butler thing aesthetic going on very well. Montana is extremely typical of a 2K game or a quote-unquote heavy in the game. Generally funny, sort of rednecky to a certain degree. Phoebe is another one who's aristocratic and arrogant. Rathnis too. Arendi is unhinged. Oscar Mike is just generally stupid to a certain degree. He's fun stupid. Shane and Aurochs do emo very well. Whiskey Foxtrot basically does the, I'm a reincarnated zombie super well. Toby is like, I'm not cute. He lives his life to be anti-cute and be wrecking machine-ish. That's his shtick. So the characters are developed very well. Cleese is a lot like, good news, everybody. He's like Professor Farnsworth from Futurama, but with a bit more bite to him. It really does beat Overwatch's characters on an individual per character basis completely. And, other than Borderlands characters, I don't know which characters could stack up to Battleborn like that. But, unfortunately, that's it. The games, the the death knell has been ringing for this game for a long time now. Not too dissimilar from Evolve, but now it's official. So if you want to buy anything and kind of get rid of some of your currency, now's the time to do it. If you want to play this out until the end of its lifespan, I suggest you get it reinstalled on the system of your choice as soon as you possibly can. And, that's it. Start waving goodbye to Battleborn. And I'm not going to say that I'm sorry to see it go. Well, I should say, I'm not going to say that I'm not sorry to see it going. It has been a very, very long time that I've played it. It has been an even longer time that I've done any of the enjoyable versus modes, which is why I kind of had a game like this, even, with the story. There was challenges to get unlocks. You had, I get silver in everything story-wise to get Galt. So when you saw a Galt player running around, you were like, oh, that guy has, he has put in some work. And there was a little bit of envy there when you saw a Galt player, but then everything was unlocked, which is good and bad. You lose the envy, and you lose the sense of accomplishment, but you gain the character that you've wanted. And, unfortunately, the game started dying, and, there's a lot of the Battleborn community that hate Overwatch as if Overwatch is an entity with a brain that did something. That Overwatch specifically set out to do something to Battleborn, and you know that's not really the case, because if Battleborn was super good and people had the feelings that I did about the characters and had, you know, that kind of investment in these characters, it would have beaten Overwatch. But it came down to the two gameplays, and it's not like one was free and the other one wasn't, so it increased its popularity and was able to reach poorer countries where they can't easily pay for games as much as they can, so they resort to free-to-play. The game would have won if it could have stood up for itself. Eventually, everything comes out in the wash, and if Overwatch was a crap trash game and Battleborn was amazing, Battleborn would have won. Yes, there's the VHS beta fights where, you know, beta is supposedly the better format, but at least in the home market, VHS won. Yeah, some things don't always go that way, admittedly, but truthfully, when you compare Overwatch to Battleborn and everything, Overwatch just generally won out, despite the fact that Battleborn definitely has some high points in there. I mean, it's just, you know, even this guy had fun humor in his taunts and everything, and I mean, just the taunts alone really show how complex these characters you know, actually were. I mean, this is very close to any of the Hyperion soldiers in the first two Borderlands games and everything. It's, maybe they could have done better if they had... Oh, was that Laura Bailey? That sounds Laura... I'm gonna have to look that up. I wonder if that is Laura Bailey. Yeah. Sad thing. Glad I still have it on my hard drive. I will keep it until the day that I hear the servers go down. It's still here. And maybe I'll play some PvE content again, or maybe there'll be community days where everybody's like, yay, you know, this whole month, let's get together and play again like old times. But the queues now are bad, and you get paired with people at such wildly different levels, it's almost not worth it to play anymore, when like a 30 could be in there with a 230 or something. Not always particularly fair, so join me in beginning to pour one out for the Battleborn homies, and the life support now is pretty official. We can hear the beep of the machinery, so that's it. And founder of the Ultimate Badass Advanced Edition, Napalm Dawn, signing off on probably what is one of the last Battleborn videos for the channel, although not the absolute last, I'm sure. I'll keep you up with any news on it as I hear it. Peace out, everybody.